everyone. My name is Chris Rose. I'm the budget director for the Office of Management and Budget of the City of Miami. Welcome to the August 27th virtual community budget meeting. We have several directors and assistant directors of other departments here tonight that are going to help answer some questions. We've got at least one assistant city manager as well. So thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to spend the next hour and a half or so discussing the city's proposed budget for the new fiscal year. And the format that we're looking at is, first of all, we've started here with introductions. I'm going to go through a short slide deck presentation on the proposed budget, and then we're going to open it up to questions for attendees. Those questions are going to be audio only. We're not going to have video on the folks that are asking the questions. And at least to start, we're going to limit it to 2 questions per person unless there are no questions, and then we'll cycle back around and let anybody have a chance to ask those questions. We're going to close things up around 8 o'clock tonight, and then before I really get going, I want to just let everyone know that there are 2 official budget meetings in September when the budget will be presented and voted on. Those are on September 10th and September 24th, both nights at 5:05 p.m. They will be virtual. So, if I may, let me start with explaining the financial situation that we are looking at the City of Miami for this next year, and it's not detailed, it's not complex. The budget itself is detailed and has we have accounted for every penny, line by line, department by department. But the budget as a whole is really marked by one main aspect, and that is we have revenue shortfalls. It is something that all businesses are facing out there, and frankly, governments are facing it too. The City of Miami is no exception. Anything that has to do with activity actually is seeing our revenues decreased from the prior year. So that would be things like parking revenues, charges for service, and anything that has to do with people that are out and about and moving. So it stands to reason that this would occur, and we are addressing it on the expense side. So we have a proposed budget for next fiscal year that starts on October 1st and runs through September 30th of 2021. In that year, we've proposed a balanced budget that has no tax rate increases or fee raises on our residents or businesses. We have no large reductions in city services. There are a few targeted reductions in the services that we provide. We are not reducing the city's reserves in the new year, although in the current year, we are using the city's reserves to balance the revenue shortfalls we're experiencing in the current year. We are not laying off any city employees in mass. There are some minimized, again, strategic reductions of mainly vacant positions. There are likely a few filled positions that will be taken off the books next year. There are no pay cuts to city employees. And the way that this is done is we're asking that all of our city employees not take a pay raise in the next fiscal year. We feel that the numbers bear out that if we don't have pay increases, then we can get by without pay reductions or large reductions in service or people. I'll say that we really set out to do this. We did not. No one really expected the COVID-19 pandemic to come our way, but it's not something that we wanted to do. It's something that we have to do. We have to present a balanced budget, and we have done so. So we have Rather than increase revenues, we have reduced expenditures to make that happen. So I'm going to share my slide deck. Give me just a moment here. Okay. Can everyone see the slide deck? All right. So again, welcome. And our both elected and appointed officials of the city welcome you as well. That is our mayor, our chairman, vice chairman, and all 5 of our commissioners, and the appointed officials, the manager, the city attorney, the city clerk, and the independent auditor general. If you've come to the community budget meetings in the past, you will recognize the format for most of this information. It is very similar to what I've presented in past years. The city actually adopts 2 budgets every year. We adopt an operating budget and a capital budget. The operating budget is just what it sounds like. It is operations, day to day. It is the operating aspects of what goes on at the city. It is largely personnel costs, and we'll see that in a moment. The capital budget that is adopted every year is more like projects. They have a beginning and an end. They are things like building a park, building a road, installing drainage, starting and finishing IT projects. Generally speaking, there is a tangible result to the capital budget and the projects that are therein. And they, again, have a beginning and end where the operating budget continues and continues from year to year. In that operating budget, we have 4 funds, the largest of which is the blue slice of that pie, the large blue slice, which is the general fund. It is property tax supported, and it is the primary operating fund. It has every department in it in one form or fashion, parts of some departments, all of other departments, and because it has the fewest requirements and strings attached, it also has the most pressure upon it. So it is where all departments are funded and gain the revenues to operate from the general fund. The green slice there is the special revenue funds, which are funds that are much more targeted and have legal requirements to be spent on specific things. These are by and large things like grants and other revenues that have some way that it just can't be spent on anything. The yellow slice is the internal service fund. Those are costs that are common across all city departments and cost centers. Things like insurance, for instance, and legacy, larger citywide IT systems that support the entire city. Finally, the orange slice there is debt service, and that is just like it sounds. It is paying off the city's debt. And forgive me, I will take some questions at the end. So just hold it, and we will call upon you. In that general fund, in that big blue slice that we saw in the previous slide, these are the revenues. This is where the money comes from for the operating general fund. This next year, 52, just a little more than 52% is going to be coming from property taxes. The orange slice is franchise fees and other taxes. Charges for service is the next largest. Just like it sounds, charges for things that people choose to partake in our government, things like marina revenues, or perhaps renting a pavilion at a park, things that you actually pay a fee for at the city. Intergovernmental revenues are our next slice, that 8.3% there, and that is almost exclusively money that is shared from the state to the city government. Licenses and permits, just like they sound in the blue slice, and then a number of smaller slices after that. Now, where the money goes by category, this is where the money is going, so it's the expense side, but it is by category, meaning what types of expenses it is spent on. The brown slice there, salaries and wages, is our largest single slice. So salaries and wages are just about 47% of the city's general fund operating budget. And then add to that employee benefits, another 27.6%, and you're just shy of 3/4 of the general fund operating budget being personnel costs. 15% is operating expenses, everything that is in the day-to-day operations that are not personnel costs. These are things like insurance, rakes and gloves for our folks that are out in the field, even electricity and fuel are all in that slice. The blue slice is transfers out, which are transfers to other parts of the budget, and the yellow slice are non-operating expenses, things that are set aside like reserves and other things that are not in the operations necessarily, but we hold that money for specific costs, not in departments. So that's where the money goes by category. This slide is a visual representation of our departments, kind of going around from the bottom right-hand corner. We see the police department, our largest department, fire department, our second largest, then non-departmental. Those are things that do not fit conveniently into a department, things like personnel payouts, because we don't know how much that's necessarily going to be in a department by department basis. We don't put that into a department and saddle that budget with those things. Legal settlements, parades, anything that just doesn't fit into a department is in that next slice. Then our third largest department, Parks and Recreation. Fourth is Solid Waste, Resilience and Public Works, number 5, and so on down the list until you see the departments that have operating budgets less than $5 million over on the right-hand side, including my own, the Office of Management and Budget, in that left-hand column about halfway down. So all of the departments are represented in the general fund, and this shows you sort of a size differential on each of those departmental budgets. Next is our table of organization of the city. You can see the city commission over here in this gray box, the executive mayor, top middle, and the chief administrative officer, the city manager, over at the top right-hand corner. Almost all the departments actually answer through the city manager, and these columns here, the blue, the green, and the yellow, are departments that answer through assistant city managers, and the what will we call that? Peach color, perhaps, out on the right-hand side answers through directly to the city manager. And then down in the bottom left-hand corner are 3 departments that do not answer to the city manager, but instead answer directly to the city commission, and that is the city attorney, the city clerk, and the independent auditor general. So that's the table of organization of all of the departments of the city of Miami. We're going to look at it one more way on the expense side, and this is where the money goes by function. And this is not salaries, wages, personnel, other operating. This is instead the functions that the city provides on a day-to-day basis. So you can see 53, almost 54% of the general fund operating budget is that orange slice, which is public safety. That is our police department and our fire department added together for about 54% of the operating budget. The yellow slice, public works, is our next one. That is not the Department of Public Works by itself, although that is a large share of it. It is also solid waste and capital improvements in there too. General government are a lot of the departments that are just like it sounds, general in nature. We have our neighborhood enhancement teams in there. We have all of the internal service departments, such as the budget office or human resources. And then we move to the green slice, which are, again, those non-departmental accounts we talked about earlier. Then Parks and Recreation, that is the department by itself. Transfers out, Planning and Development, which are our planning, our building, and our zoning departments. Real Estate and Asset Management, Risk Management, Housing and Community Development. You can see that more than half of the city's budget in the new fiscal year is going to be our public safety functions. Now we move to the capital budget. So this chart shows you it is ranked by the departments that are receiving the most new money in the new fiscal year, or proposed to at least. So the Parks and Recreation Department is receiving the most new money, and Resilience and Public Works is not too far behind at number 2, and then Real Estate and Asset Management, Building, Police, so on and so forth. I will tell you every year, Parks and Rec and Resilience and Public Works are number 1 and number 2. Some years they flip, some years it's just like this. Now, if we go to the next slide, you'll see, let me go back. This was a 1-year new money going into those departments. This slide shows the entire 6-year capital plan for each of those departments. And you'll see, in this case, for the 6-year plan, Resilience and Public Works is our number 1, Parks is our number 2, Real Estate and Asset Management is number 3, and then the 4th slice is actually my department, where we hold funds that are held to be allocated at a later date into other projects. Again, going around through departments with capital budgets less than $10 million over here on the right-hand side. I will also take a moment to talk about property taxes. We have the average homesteaded household is now this next year $262,000, just a little more than that, and we are not changing the property tax rate. So it is 7.9900, and so a house that is valued at $262,000 would pay $2,093 in the current year, and it would pay $2,093 in the new year. And you can see a $500,000 and $1 million house if you want to see those same calculations out there. There is a change between some of the millages. We're moving the millages about from operations and debt, but the total is remaining the same in this next proposed budget. 1 or 2 more slides, not too many. This next one shows a history of the fund balance of the city of Miami. And the fund balance is basically how much money's left in the bank on the last day of the fiscal year. It's a little more nuanced than that, but that captures the idea. And you can see this period in the city's history is when we experienced the Great Recession. It was when the city was experiencing financial difficulty about 10 years ago. And you'll see that the city's reserves got very, very low. And since then, we have been building those reserves back up, some years more than others. And you will see up here in these last 2 years, in the current year, we're actually going to drop down the amount of reserves that the city will have, mainly due to revenue that we are not realizing that we had expected to in the current year. And so we are eating into the city's reserves in the current year. You will also see that we are not eating into those reserves in next year's budget. So if all goes well with the budget as proposed, we will have stabilized and still done so without the revenues really going up. So that is the challenge that's before us in this budget. I want to put up 2 slides that I've not shown in these meetings before. The first one is designated or restricted funds inside that general fund. And this green line is a self-imposed financial integrity principle. It's a line that we try to have our reserves above each fiscal year. It's actually written into the city's code, and it is something that we aspire to every year. What we have here is on the restricted side, the designated side, we are doing well. We have more reserves than what we have required ourselves to have. Now, if I switch over, there's another type of fund balance in our general fund, and that is the unassigned or unrestricted funds. And you will see that we have right about hit it for the last couple of years, but this next year we're actually going to go into the year not having met that goal. So it is, again, that is the challenge that's before us, created on the revenue side, but we are really dealing with it on the expense side of the ledger. So with that said, I'm going to conclude the slide deck that I've got. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask if those of you attendees have any questions. And again, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you have a question. And I'm going to, we're going to try and call on folks generally in the order that the hands go up. I'm going to ask that you hold it to just 2 questions to start with. And we'll go pretty much right up to about 8 o'clock with these questions. We will call upon directors and assistant directors of the city's departments to help with the answering of some of those questions. So it looks like we've got about 5 hands up in the air. Who is our first one that gets to ask a question?
Justin Trieger.
Okay. Hey, Justin, how are you this evening?
Hi, Chris. We're doing all right. Thank you for asking, and thanks for doing these presentations.
Sure.
Mine and my wife's questions relates to the reductions in net offices and net staffing. We are obviously quite close with our net office, being in Allapattah, and having a really great relationship with the current net administrator because of just the amount of community work that he's done. And we're concerned because we know that several net offices are being closed, and the result of that may mean that net administrators with seniority may assume Yariel's position. And that's problematic for a number of reasons. One, it doesn't really go to, as we understand it, the methodology for how those closures are being decided, meaning how effective they are statistically and servicing calls and responses from the community. In addition to that, Yariel has built up, as I've said, quite a relationship with community members and been really central to a lot of important developments. So it would be disappointing, to say the least, to lose him as a result of a closure of a net office somewhere else, and simply because of seniority, place another net administrator who doesn't have the same relationship with the community. So can you confirm those assumptions or what we've heard, if that's the case?
Sure.
And if so, maybe respond.
Sure. So, I can tell that Yariel has a very close relationship with the folks in his area. And I will also say that the budget is the budget for the city, and that we really try not to deal directly with personnel issues in the budget. That is more of an HR process, and the city rules predate all of us and have to be followed. I will also say that, again, we would rather not make any kind of service cuts or personnel cuts, but in order to address what's coming at us, that is something that we've had to do. In no area would we really like to do that, but we have had to make some of those hard decisions, and there are still some hard decisions to be made. So let me ask Von Carroll Kitchens, the director of neighborhood enhancement teams, to let us know her thoughts and let us know which offices are going to be staying open in this process, or at least proposed at the moment.
Good evening to each of you. Von Carroll Kitchens Williams, the director of NET. for the offices that are going to remain open are Corway, Flagami, Upper East Side, Overtown, Attapata, La Havana, Net Administration, and Coconut Grove. I would have to piggyback on what Mr. Rose just said when it comes to personnel. Whatever happens when it comes to staff as to how staff is chosen, that comes from HR.
Okay. Thank you, Director Kitchens. Is there, knowing that, and knowing that obviously Yariel has a lot of effectiveness in his current role, is there any way that HR can be lobbied in order to not, or ensure that he doesn't lose that position? Because it's a really serious issue for us who've been here for the past 3-4 years since he's taken that role.
I will.
Do understand that, but once again, that's a question that is something that HR would have to go through the process to make those decisions. I would say for all of my net administrators are well-trained and well-diverse when it comes to doing their job. So we will leave that up to, once again, to HR.
And I will tell you too, the rules are pretty strict and stringent, and you will not find our HR department applying the rules arbitrarily or capriciously. They are applied uniformly throughout all departments, all personnel of the city. So I will take your comments back and make sure that everybody knows about them. And I do appreciate it when all of our citizens say kind words about our staff. So thank you for that. I do.
Chris, if I could just say one last thing for the record.
Sure.
We don't believe that it serves the city's best interest nor the interests of the net administration to blindly follow a protocol that dictates seniority as the sole factor. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Who is our next question coming from?
Delalan Adefris.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Hello.
Chris. Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I know you probably get tired of hearing from me, but I have a few questions on behalf of our environmental community.
For sure.
As you know, we've been very active around the Office of Resilience, and we also love our resilience staff. And so I know that the department is getting merged with Public Works, or the division, I guess, now. And I'm wondering if it's possible to get an idea, you know, even over email after this, of what the funding is for the Division of Resilience and Sustainability within the Resilience and Public Works Department. It's hard to see as the budget is written now, since it's looking at the department as a whole, although I know there's many components to Resilience and Public Works.
Sure. Okay. Let me set my staff to work on getting that to me while we talk. I know we've got it. I don't have it right at my fingertips, but I'll have it tonight. So
Okay.
Let's keep talking, and either Juvenal or Chris, would either of you like to address any of those thoughts? And please introduce yourselves as you do.
Yes, hello. My name is Chris Bennett, Assistant Director of Resilience and Public Works, and currently acting Deputy Chief Resilience Officer. Much like with Chris, I don't have those numbers at my fingertips either, so I'd have to defer to him because we both got to dig up our research, but we'll have those for you very, very soon.
Okay. Would it be on this call, or do you want me to send an email?
I'd like to get it this evening.
Okay, great.
But you have my email, so if I don't get it, I will say that out loud at this meeting so that we're clear, and we'll get it to you one way or another.
Perfect. And my second question is actually for Chris Bennett. Actually, I'm wondering, now that your position, you have a new position, congratulations, or at least a shift in position. I'm wondering how much time is, what's your % time dedicated to the Division of Resilience and Sustainability?
Sure. Right now, obviously we're in a transition, especially as we're still working on the final budget and approval for that. But right now, just so I can clarify, Alan Dodd, who is current director of public works, but is also the chief resilience officer. I'll start with him first. And since he's going to be the CRO, he's spending upwards of, I would say, probably 5 to 6 hours each day on pure Office of Resilience and Sustainability items, everything from meetings and guiding the team with their initiatives, and an additional one or two meetings a day on top of those office hours, and then maybe an hour a day at the most on actual public works issues. Especially between now and when we transition into the final plan, he still also has to sign off on, some of the legal binding documents and stuff like that. So less than an hour a day would be about what he's spending on public works stuff. For myself, I'm splitting my time about 50%, 50-50. I'm striving to do more for ORS, or the Office of Resilience and Sustainability Division. But right now, you could take a look at the other 50% that I do, which is managing the stormwater team, which is stormwater design, construction, setting the standards for stormwater, including seawall elevations and so forth, as well as permitting and enforcement of permit requirements. And a lot of the stuff that I've always done with public works has actually been directly connected to the things that the Office of Resilience and Sustainability did. So my name or face may not have been around very much, but I was very directly connected to, I call them ORS, to the ORS team. So even though I'm 50-50 between public works, my assistant director position, and then the actual deputy CRO, it's really, almost all of my day is always resilience related one way or the other.
Great, thank you so much. I'll definitely be reaching out to you as well. I'd love to meet. I work at Catalyst Miami, and we've had a vested interest in resilience and sustainability from an economic lens and an economic justice lens for our low wealth residents across the city. So I just want to make sure that carries on. Deeply embedded in this work. So look forward to meeting with you.
Definitely. Same here. And you're with Catalyst, so I'm sure we'll cross paths soon.
Yes, definitely. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we have Monica Terwine.
Hi, everyone. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, and I was on mute. My apologies.
Oh,
So-
no, sorry. Okay, I thought it was me. It's always me for some reason, but anyway. Okay, so my name is Monica Tawani. I'm one of the owners of MST Corp. I'm also a member of the Allapattah Coalition, and I'm a large property owner in Allapattah. We own over 10 folios right off of, mostly on 20th Street, but also on 21st between 17th and 22nd. I got one of my questions answered, which was who it is that determines what cuts are made with respect to staffing at the net offices, which I heard was HR. And I understand now a little bit more about how these decisions are made. I would like to find out if there's any way to give input to HR as a property owner, and for those of us that have participated with the Allapattah Coalition, to give them some feedback before these decisions are finalized. And before you answer that question, I just want to explain where I'm coming from. I'm asking from a place of concern and willingness to contribute my professional opinion as a large property owner in the area that will suffer the consequences of the lack of resources available to us from an assistance and maintenance perspective. I want to specifically point out that it would be a detriment to our community and the efficiency of our net office that I've dealt with quite often for years now, if we were to lose Uriel Diaz specifically. And I'm saying that not as someone who has gotten to know him and thinks he's an amazing individual. I'm talking to you as specifically a property owner who has to deal with, dumping of trash, graffiti, all kinds of, I could go into lists of things that we've had to deal with over the last 10, 15 years. So he's been the most active individual I've met in any of the net offices I've interacted with. And there have been a few because we own properties all over the city. He's consistently available, responsive, professional, helpful, and overall a genuine asset. I know that he lives in the area and he genuinely cares about the well-being of our community. It doesn't matter if it's until 9:30 at night. He's at these coalition meetings, guiding us and giving us input and telling us how we all can contribute. And that's just something. The only person I've seen more passionate, or maybe equally as passionate about Allapattah, is Commissioner Gord. And obviously he did us a great service by serving us and being our commissioner. So I'm sorry to ramble on. I just want to make it clear, because I guess you all do go back and give feedback as to what it is that we want to express to you. So I just want to put out there that it would be a terrible decision to choose to cut someone that's such an invaluable asset to our net office and our community, and does a tremendous service to us on a daily basis.
All right. Well, I thank you for your comments, and this forum is absolutely the right one to express such things.
Yeah.
I want to draw a slight nuance and say that the decisions are not made by human resources. Human resources
okay.
actually enforces the human resource rules of the city. So,
Okay.
So in many cases, those rules are written into either our civil service laws and rules, even the city's charter, and in some cases into city code or even state law. So I want to draw that distinction and say HR is not necessarily, it would be incorrect to say they're making the decision. They're enforcing the rules that are in front of us. So nonetheless, I will take everything you said back. I've got a team of note takers listening, and I'm taking a few of my own. So we are going to take the comments back and make sure everybody hears them. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, can I actually forward an email so that that way, I can understand that they're taking notes, but there's obviously much more I would like to say, and even specifics that I would offer to go into for them to take into consideration. And I understand that they're enforcing the rules, but I would assume that, and again, I don't want to say anything against other net administrators, because whoever may have seniority, I don't maybe know them personally. I can't say. All I know is from my personal experience after having dealt with quite a few net officers, this individual is the most impressive. I even told him at one point, I would hire you at the blink of an eye. You know what I mean? So he's an asset. This is one of those people that you want on your team. And our team is Allapattah. We're worried about our community. I understand these budget cuts are not in anyone's control, but there's certain things you have to pick and choose from. And he would be one of the people that I would pick. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want to, if it's fair to send an email, if it's an option, can you give me an email address, or is there any way to get an email address to send some input in? Is that an option?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
wonderful.
I was actually going to wait till the end to share, but
Okay.
I'm going to do it now. Give me just a moment to share my screen again.
Okay.
And here, let's see. So we have sort of a generic email address in the budget office that
Okay.
I need to get this little thing out of the way. There we go.
Thank you all for your patience. I apologize for taking up so much time.
No, all good, all good. So right down at the bottom there, ibudget@miamigov.com. So if you would send something to that, I will make sure that we take it and move it all around, up the chain, sideways, and everywhere it needs to go. Okay?
Can I ask one last question, if you don't mind?
Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, do you think, would it be unheard of to provide property owners or members of the community with a survey to give their input on this decision, because it is such a huge thing for us?
I will say, as budget director, we don't have anything budgeted for such surveys, but I will say this too. You're in the right place right now. You're providing the input. So if you would like you and your fellow business owners to send emails to that same email address, that may serve as a proxy for a survey. But
Wonderful.
but yeah, I hadn't actually thought of it. So let me think of it. I will say this too. We had a series of these meetings a couple of months ago prior to releasing the proposed budget. And at that meeting, we did have a survey of all city services and got a lot of great input there. This format seems to work a little better after we propose the budget to get face to face isn't quite the right word, but to hear it directly in your words rather than going through a survey this time. So
Okay.
all of it is coming together. But thank you for letting us know, and I'll watch for your emails.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening and your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Who's next?
Rose Pujol.
All right.
Hi, my name is Rose Pujol. And before I forget, I'd like to mention that Sue McConnell and Nathan Kirkland, they're with the Village Center Grove, or Center Village Grove. I'm not sure what the correct name is, but they were trying to make this meeting, and both of them had a situation where neither could make it, and have asked me to join them in speaking about Madeline Pacheco, which I'm sure everybody that has dealt with has a terrific impression of her ability and her efficiency. And the concern, of course, is what every speaker has had. I'm not too sure with how you devised the breaking up of the net offices, if it was related to density, perhaps. I know that combining the two very large condo areas, Brickell and Coconut Grove, may be a very daunting process for Madeline and her staff to handle efficiently. So I'm not too sure. Maybe you can tell us something about how that process came about. It would be very interesting to know. And then I have a couple of other comments regarding taxes.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to ask Von Carroll to come back up again and give us some thoughts. I will say that the decisions were not made lightly. They were not made quickly. And it took us several steps to get to the proposal that we've got before you today. So, Von Carroll, do you have something to add to that?
Good evening, ma'am. These decisions were made geographically. When we talk about the Coconut Grove, first and foremost, is one of the offices that's going to remain open. The other offices that are slated to close, the offices are physically closing, but there will still be an administrator and staff to tend to those areas. It's just that certain offices will be combined to work out of one location. So when you talk about Coconut Grove and Ms. Pacheco, and if it is decided that the downtown Brickell office would join them, you would still have staff to cover both Coconut Grove and downtown Brickell.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And then I'd like to go back. Basically, there's a group that I represent, which is Bayshore and Grove, which you may have seen the yellow banners, Stop Grove Gridlock, related to the Villa Woodbine matter in Carrollton building a boys' school there. And our focus has been the advocacy of smart growth strategies, and obviously the preservation of historic and natural resources. So what we've tried to do is create a platform that the public can engage on these policy issues. And obviously resilience and sustainability are a huge factor in everyone's concerns with the rising sea level and everything that's happening in with climate change. But I feel that a few questions have been answered by previous speakers. So I'm comfortable with that, and I guess we'll be watching closely. The issue with real estate taxes, we happen to have been at City Hall when the Grove Isle matter was on the agenda. And at that time, there was a Miami Daily Business Review newspaper right there at the table where everybody was checking in. And back in June, there were thousands of listed properties that have defaulted on real estate taxes, which typically are paid through your mortgage together with the mortgage and the real estate taxes. So what that gives you is a look at the coming foreclosures that we're going to be facing. And in looking at your presentation, the real estate taxes represented, let's see, where was that? I took a photograph of it, but it's a large portion of the revenue.
About
And
50
so is that
53.
something that you have taken into account?
It is, and it's about 53% of next year's budget, and it is something we've taken into account. In fact, every year we do a 5-year financial outlook for the city, and one of the major decisions we need to make in that regard is what our property tax roll growth or lack thereof is going to look like for the next several years. And right now we're looking at current year being difficult, next year being difficult that we have proposed here, and then the following year also being difficult. It certainly looks that way to us with various leading indicators, not the least of which are some of the planning and the zoning permits that we're looking at. Those indicators also tell us that it probably, and knock on whatever I can find to knock on, is probably not going to go another year after that. That is at least what we're looking at. So, yeah, it is something we're concerned about. It is something that we have built into our models that we're looking at, and I'll tell you that is what the reserves are there for. And that's why we're actually using those reserves to make sure that we can continue services in the current year. But it's also why we're trying to put the brakes on that for next year and the following year. So, no, thank you for bringing it up. And it is not something that has gone unnoticed as we look out into the future.
I'd like to just point out one last thing, and that was I found your City of Miami financial history slide very, very interesting. Do you find that in this budget, and again, this is a very broad question, you've been able to incorporate some type of benchmarks so that you do not fall into the trap of what happened in 2010, 2011, in terms of the crisis, the financial crisis?
Yes, and many of the same things I said a minute ago, but I'll also say, the future is unclear. That's why it's the future, right? So we are doing our best to project that, and we have planned and expect these next 2 years to be challenging for us. I will tell you that even since this budget has been proposed in July, and we're only a month later right now, we have gotten indication from the state of Florida that several of our revenues are not going to come in even at what we had expected them to be. So we had built up the reserves over many years. We had also built some reserves into next year's budget for exactly that. We call it it's almost a contra revenue. It's built in because the revenues are so volatile. We call it the reserve for uncollectible revenues, and we had built that up for this situation, and already we're going to have to address that in a likely proposed change to the budget at the first budget hearing there in September. So we are trying to be as prudent and conservative as we can in the budget that we proposed, and also as equitable to make sure that there is no one group that is bearing the brunt of what's coming at us right now. So yes, but if you want, we can sit and talk through those in great more detail. I'll invite you to look at the budget online and see those nearly 500 pages that we have in that budget book that goes through many of those thoughts that we're talking about tonight and what went into preparing this proposal.
Thank you very much, Chris, and everyone that's there tonight. And last question, is it possible to see your slide presentation, which I like very much? Will you be posting that on site, on the city site, so that other people can see that weren't able to make this meeting?
You know, I'm ashamed to say I didn't think of that. So yes, we will do that. I will probably print it to a PDF and put it on the city's budget website, that same site, miamigov.com/budget. So it'll be there. It's not there
Terrific.
right now, but it will be. Give me a day or two. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. We have Fernando Casamayor, Assistant City Manager. Fernando, do you want to add to anything that I may have left out in the discussion we just had?
Good evening, Chris. No, just want to make sure that everyone understands that, as part of the city's recovery team, the things that we're looking at is, the data that we're seeing regarding some of our the economics. So we do have an eye for what's happening with the economy, property sales, residential versus commercial, businesses that are open and closed, how many PPP loans were received, all of those things are things that we're looking at every week to kind of make sure that we plan for whatever is coming in the future, whether it's a steady recovery or a V-shaped recovery or, a very long-term recovery. But it starts now, like you said, we want to make sure that we have reserves because that's what we have them for, but we can't just use them all in one shot. We need to extend this out a little bit because we may have some rough waters for the next 2 or 3 years, not just the next year. And that's all that I want to add. And then regarding the taxes that were mentioned by Ms. Pujol, having been the county tax collector before I joined the city, I'll tell you that those tax sales that you saw, the advertisement, those are always a significantly sized list. And not necessarily do all mortgages pay for property taxes. There's a significant amount of property out there that has no mortgages on them. So individuals do have to pay those themselves. And even those with mortgages, it's an option to pay your property tax as part of your mortgage payment. So governments are guaranteed to receive the revenues. They have tax sales in June in order to cover that. So not too concerned, but yes, moving forward, if those numbers for those tax sales start to increase next year, it is a leading indicator as to what type of foreclosure activity and property value activity is going to have in the following years. Thank you.
And I was trying to recall the quote by Yogi Berra, and I think I butchered it, but it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. So that is what I was trying to get out there. And yes, it is the budget director's responsibility to make such predictions. But we are cautiously conservative, and after that, cautiously optimistic. So we've got some short-term, medium-term, and long-term things we're watching. So again, thank you for your comments. All right, looks like we've got 7.
Horatio Aguirre.
Okay, thank you, Manny.
Chris, good evening.
Good day,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you for attending virtually.
Glad to do it, Chris, once again. As you know, Chris, I'm privileged to live in Allapattah, District 1, president of the Durham Park Neighborhood Association, and chairman of the Miami River Commission as the governor's appointee. The first person I call when we have an issue in our neighborhood, in our area, or in our portion of the Miami River is Yadiel Diaz, not because he's conveniently residing in our neighborhood or in our area, but because he is the most knowledgeable and the most effective and the most responsive public servant, other than you and Fernando, that we have in our government. So keep that in mind. Now, Chris, this last year when I was busy walking around a couple of hundred miles of District 1, the number one concern that came up to my ears was public safety. Are we going to make sure that we have enough dollars for the City of Miami Police Department?
Yes, sir. We we have worked very closely with the police department. We are challenging them to reduce such things as overtime in their budget, and frankly asking them to forego some of the vacancies that they have in there. Not sworn vacancies, mind you, but civilian vacancies. It is also part of the proposed budget that we have asked the police employees, along with all of our other employees, to not take a pay increase, but the police officers are actually one exception to that. There is a built-in pay increase in the collective bargaining agreements with that labor union that is the only piece that is moving forward in the next budget. So yes, sir, and I think we've got a representative from the police department here tonight. If they are, I'll ask them to come on up, and there we go. Chief.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, Chief.
Good evening again. Assistant Chief Sharice Gause. I'm here tonight on behalf of Chief George Kalina. Rest assured that public safety is also a priority for us, and we intend to provide the same high quality of service. In addition, we want to make sure that we continue to be community driven. We have the support of the community, and that's a great thing for our department. So we want to continue that, our community engagement and building trust and legitimacy, as well as transparency in the community. So yes, we do intend to make sure that we provide the same level of service. The cuts that we have received should not impact public safety.
Thank you, Chief. Grateful to hear that. Chris, one last question.
Yes, sir.
The Miami River is 5.5 miles from Biscayne Bay to the 42nd Avenue Dam, but we also concern ourselves with Biscayne Bay. What is the funding prospect for the cleanup operations that we have been taking care of the last few years? Are we going to continue that, or are we going to see more fish dying?
Well, a couple of thoughts on that. Let me go micro and move towards macro, and prepare Chris Bennett for some answers there too, because I know he's been working hard on it over the last few weeks and days. The funding that the city provides to the Miami River Commission is still in the city's budget as proposed. So rest assured that we will remain partners in that regard.
Thank you.
Certainly so. I will also point out that that the bay itself is really under the jurisdiction of Miami-Dade County. That doesn't mean that we don't all take a part in what is just terribly important to all of us. So the health of the bay is first and foremost a county responsibility, but you've seen the response that the city has had, and I'm gonna rather than answer it incorrectly, I'm gonna ask Chris to speak up and talk about those things that we've been doing and that we're going to continue doing.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so as Chris Rose was mentioning, I mean, the funding that has been there, thank goodness, is still going to be there. As far as our efforts that we've been putting forth, the last couple of weeks during the heavy fish kill that happened and the deoxygenation of the bay, we were heavily involved with numerous entities, including the county. And we even, instead of doing our daily cleaning with our scavenger boat on the river and some of the tributaries, we spent some time going up and down actually the coast of the city in the bay, helping oxygenate the water, as well as picking up the dead fish so that they wouldn't further decay and create algal blooms and so forth. And technically, that didn't cost us any extra money. It did cost us on the back end where we had some more effort we had to put into cleaning the river when we skipped those days. But nonetheless, without going into extra budgetary issues, we managed to do a significant effort in helping oxygenate the water and reduce the fish kill and clean up the bayfront there, and then still maintain our level of effort necessary to keep the rivers clean. With that, the other thing I can say is both from the Office of Resilience and Sustainability hat that I wear, as well as the let's just call it the general engineering public works hat that I also wear. I've been involved in updating design and construction standards for the city's right-of-way projects, which includes such things as including curb inlet screens for curb inlets for drainage on the roads where curb and gutter is, as well as any projects that are coming online, upcoming. They will have pollution separation devices installed in more of them. So the devices that we currently have are actually few and far between, but all new projects coming online will always have that sustainability and that environmental quality, the water quality aspect to it. So we're going to be increasing our levels of effort without really having to increase our budget, because it's just going to be a requirement of projects that are being done anyways. So that's about the best that I can say is how we're going to not only continue doing what we're doing now, but do better and be able to maintain that with the current budgets that we have.
Director Bennett, thank you. I like what I hear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I'm going to take the opportunity to fill in a question that Zelalem asked a couple of steps ago. What is the funding piece that's effectively merging into Resilience and Public Works from the Office of Resilience and Sustainability? So let me answer that question now. Just seems like a good segue. We have 3 full-time positions that we're moving over into RPW, Resilience and Public Works, and those 3 positions are fully funded. They are $234,000 total for those positions. On top of that, we moved we've called it consultant money. We moved $175,000 that was in the Office of Resilience and Sustainability and put new funding in that amount in Resilience and Public Works in the new year. And that has funded a lot of reports, consultancy, advocacy that has been done in the past, and that funding is available in the new year as well. We did not cut back on that consultant funding that we had in the budget. We just moved it from one place to another. So I hope that answers the question, and we will continue moving forward. So Chris has those new funds effectively that were not in Public Works to work on all the things that he's going to be working on in this next year. So we still have some folks with their hands up. Let's move on to our next question. Who's that?
Healthy Little Havana.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Chris. My name is Sofia Cuenca. I am the program manager at Healthy Little Havana. We are a community-based nonprofit organization that promotes healthy living among the residents of Little Havana. And we advocate for policy, systems, and environmental changes within the areas of public space, education, employment, and housing. 75% of all of our staff are residents of Little Havana. Our chair of our board of directors is also a resident of Little Havana and business owner. And every single one of our projects, we really ensure that community input drives our decision making. So I'm here today to just advocate for the Marlins Neighborhood Enhancement Team. The Marlins Net Office serves as our liaison to the city's resources, and they not only help our nonprofit organizations like ours strengthen the work that we are doing within the community, but they are actively serving the needs of the everyday Little Havana residents. Within Little Havana, we have a massive illegal dumping and littering issue, and over the past 2 years, the Marlins Net Office has continuously been a member of our Porque Amo Mi Barrio, Cuido Mi Barrio project team that is aiming to tackle that exact issue. The Marlins Net Office is specific, has been helping move many of our goals forward by receiving and responding to many of our community's needs and 311 calls. For the well-being and prosperity of our community during this time of COVID-19 and beyond. Healthy Little Havana believes that continued support and funding for the Marlins Net Office, who is one of the offices listed and proposed to be closed, is absolutely essential for our community. I just want to thank you for your consideration, and I hope that the continued work of the Marlins Net Office and the team there can be continued this upcoming year. Thank you both.
Thank you for your input. We will definitely take that back. Director Kinchins, do you want to one more time? I know we did this last night, but can you read out the the offices that will remain open, and one more time reiterate how we're going to cover the whole city still.
The offices that will remain open are Corway, Legami, Upper East Side, Overtown, Attapata, La Havana, Net Administration, and Coconut Grove. Once again, the offices that are slated to close, which are Model City, La Haiti, Wynwood, Mullins Park, and downtown, those offices will be combined with other offices. You will still have an administrator and office staff to attend to your needs. So you would not be left out of left. You will still have staff to cover. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's our next question?
Hank Araya.
Hi, my name is Hannah Raya, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Save the Biscayne Bay initiative in response to the environmental catastrophe that happened a few weeks ago. A previous speaker just spoke about the same problem, and the massive fish kill and the marine life that littered the coastal waters. And since these were a direct response to pollution and human activity, there's this petition that's trending right now to save the bay. And there's some strategies outlined in the petition that include eliminating the use of toxic pesticides during months of heavy rainfall, implementing better stormwater treatment, installing filtration systems across the 28,000 catch basins and curb inlets around the city, and protecting remaining seagrass beds by adding more no motor zones, and several other things that are outlined in the petition. So I know that you talked a bit about it, and I know it's not exactly the jurisdiction of this department entirely, and it has to do with the city of Miami, the county. But how specifically will the budget for resilience and sustainability be distributed in the proposed budget to protect the Bay in direct response to what's happening in the past couple of weeks?
Sure. Thank you. Chris, do you want to address that?
Well, I mean, I guess what I could say is that, kind of like what I brought up before, is that the budget that I guess you could say applies to protecting the bay as well as the rivers and all the various tributaries that flow ultimately into the bay. Our capital budget for design and construction projects, as well as our public works operation and construction and repair budgets, to my knowledge, have not been trimmed back any. So the planned projects that have been in the capital plan for improving the drainage systems, which ultimately therefore improves the water quality, are still there. Further on that is our efforts in terms of education with everything from the fertilizer ordinance that we passed earlier this year, and continuing to educate and remind folks of those requirements so that way they stop or at least reduce their use of fertilizers, especially near water bodies or drainage systems. And numerous other efforts are in the works between both Public Works and our Division of Office of Resilience and Sustainability. So we're still doing our outreach, we're still doing our education, we're still doing our internal planning from a resilience and sustainability issue, and from the perspective of Public Works, we continue to work on drainage projects that are above and beyond current required standards. As I mentioned before, requiring both upstream and downstream filtration devices, vortechnic separators, which separates oils and sediments, increasing the amount of exfiltration trench that we install in higher land areas, like for instance Wynwood, which ultimately drains to the bay through miles of pipes that go out across the eastern part of the city. So as we implement these projects that are in the budget or in the capital plan, and as we put stronger and more stringent requirements on developers or redevelopment of existing properties as they come in to permit their projects, we will ultimately continue pushing for higher, better water quality through those efforts. So it's not a direct impact, I would say, on the budget, and any cuts to the budget aren't directly impacting those efforts at all at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering my question. We'll be in touch.
Right. All right. Thank you. All right. Who do we have next?
Virginia Yermoli.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Hi. Well, thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. I do have to agree with the people that spoke before. I am the president of the Women's Club of Coconut Grove. We are, a volunteer-based nonprofit organization. We've been around for 130 years. We got 5 years on the city. So, the net office, we work with them all the time, the Coconut Grove net office, of course. And I just want to say that the help our building is old. It's 100 years old. And as you know, the organization is old as well, and we always have some kind of issues here and there. And Ms. Pacheco has been amazing, a lifesaver for us, because she always resolves. She always gives us the name of the person we have to, get in touch when we need something, and immediate. I mean, it's immediate. If I send her an email because the club has a problem, she will immediately send me the information I need, or the person I need to contact. She resolves. She resolves immediately, in a most professional way, and she's so hands-on. And not only does she resolve, but she will, after a few days, she will contact me again, and ask me if I don't get back to her because I couldn't find what I needed, she will get back to me and ask me if the information she gave me was okay, if the person I contacted was help me. I mean, she is really amazing, and I'm so glad that this office is going to be open. And I certainly hope that she will stay with the office, because she really has been God sent for us.
All right. So thank you for those kind words. Really appreciate it. I'm sure all city employees like to hear those words about any of our own. So thank you. Let's see.
Guillermo de la Paz.
All right, let's move on to the next one then. Mr. De La Paz may not be available right now. We'll come back. Who's next after that?
Itay Benash.
Hi, good evening. Itay Benash on behalf of the Downtown Neighbors Alliance. First of all, thank you for taking the time to present the draft budget tonight. As other speakers have noted, net administrators provide a critical service to the city's residents and taxpayers, and their ability to have boots on the ground is invaluable. The DNA strongly opposes the elimination of the downtown net office, especially since downtown Miami is one of the neighborhoods that is most in need of a net office, and given the significant amount of existing city-owned or city-leased office space in the area. Therefore, the DNA requests the reconsideration of the decision to eliminate the downtown net office. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for those comments, and I will bring them back to everybody that I can. So thank you. Who do we have next?
Okay, we have Albert Gomez.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Everyone else. I appreciate Chris. By the way, I haven't seen you since COVID, so tough times.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw each other was over at FIU, right?
That's correct, sir. I appreciate you bringing up the charter and like the role of government to administer it and enforce it, and that goes to a lot of the strategy that I think that we were starting to converge on, let's say ahead of the catastrophe, let's call it. And effectively, I remember the discussion was starting to peak on, let's call it like Chris, which I haven't seen you since the Resilience Accelerator, I don't think, Chris, but ORS office, like you tagged it, and also OCI, kind of intermingle there because of the general obligation bond. And that kind of falls under, let's call it let's go to acronym world, the RPW. So that reality, I know that they all follow the climate resilient ready strategy. I know that they're trying to do the resilient 305 strategy. And that kind of just gets thrown a bit out the door in ethos when you're dealing with a pandemic. You have to kind of prioritize other things, but you want to try to keep those metrics in play. The conversation was started to have about resilience hubs, the value of the net offices for replicating those services. And if we're going to hold true to our stated strategies and then have some sort of ratioed performance against that, we can track that we're going towards those stated strategies, net offices that would be the backbone for developing resilience hubs, which would be a key deliverable on something you guys are tasked to do. So that's the first thing, and I'd like to see if you could take that up. I don't think there's really a question there per se, other than it departs from the stated strategy. So as the city managers and assistant city managers are listening and what have you, I would think that they would always try to balance that, and that kind of balancing is a rebalancing of the metrics. So I kind of want to understand what that means and how they can explain that based against their stated strategy, since they're supposed to administer the charter and enforce it. And then furthermore, we were trying to get to that selection criteria, a place where you guys assess from OCI where to draw prioritizations and how to even draw, like you referenced, Chris, equity. How do you do that? And I'd like to see some more on the budget detail that informs us on how you're actually achieving the stated, strategy. And I know that they're departmental and they're breakouts, and there's where it's going to understand kind of results, but I kind of understand again the stated strategy and then how we're delivering on that. And then to some of the other points, as you know, I'm a Bay-centric person. So there is Chris, I appreciate you talking about the infrastructure and holding the value stream there. I was on the Bay as well with NOAA and actually had some Durham officials on as well. And we went several times out to do water chemistry sampling out in the Bay. I also went out to look for a dear friend of my wife that passed away on a paddleboard this last week, and I did some searching for him as well. And in doing so, I came across the police officers, which I referenced to them the discussion that we were having, and that I know that City of Miami Police administrators had discussed potentially becoming water samplers, and FIU and Durham participating and offering to train them and to certify them so that they could start to qualify. That is a police district, the Bay. That is the only way you can enforce the water, our laws and our charter. So it's through police, effectively. So the way I see it was, like Chris said, it's not adding to the budget, it's increasing capacity. And it would seem that the county and Durham would probably enable them with the hardware necessary in order for them to facilitate that water sampling so that we have a better understanding of where the dead zones are. Little River is dead, okay? There is no oxygen in Little River right now. There was no oxygen there yesterday. There was no oxygen there the day before. That is why one of the central points of why our Bay is why it's happening. There's 980 septic tanks concentrated in Little River, right next to the water. There is no way you're going to solve that problem without getting serious at a state and federal level. So I wouldn't throw this on a city budget, but knowing what it is, what's happening, and having a compelling story to talk to state and federal people at a municipal level, I think that that's something that we could do. I'd like to see if it's not a budget ask, because it really wouldn't necessarily be, other than the training hours, effectively to get this done and to allocate it however we do it. If it's designation within the budget, that way it gets administered that we at least stipulate it. And if that's the way we get this thing operational, let's do it. But we need to do something. And I know that now's not the time to ask for money. So those are my statements. My quick question is, I don't see any COVID activities designated. Do they fall under the non-departmental area? Are you going to highlight COVID-related activities? And what comes, let's say, from maybe a federal fund or a state fund versus what's being drawn up by the mayor's office or the city managers?
Let me take myself off mute there, and I'm gonna call up Alfredo Duran to help me with this in our Housing and Community Development Office, where a lot of that effort is going on. And there were a lot of different comments you had in there, Albert. So I'm gonna package talk about the ones you had at the end there. In particular, we have a lot of COVID response from our police department to our fire department, but a lot of the programs where we're helping folks out are actually in our Housing and Community Development department. We have rental assistance, mortgage assistance, all those kind of things, and Alfredo is going to do a much better job than I outlining them. And we're also partnering up with the county, trying to work to secure some of the CARES Act funding that came from the federal government to the county to expand some of the projects that we're working on right now. We in the budget office actually today had a long discussion with representatives of the county about those topics. So they're not called out specifically in the presentation I made, but rest assured the city is working hard in those regards. Alfredo, do you want to add to that?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. And yes, indeed, we have, since the pandemic began and since the social distancing has caused such financial hardship to all of us, we have put forth, we did benefit from federal monies through the CARES Act. We initially opened up a small business and a micro business loan that followed the PPP loans that the federal government issued. And that gave $20,000 to small businesses that applied, as well as micro businesses up to $10,000. And that program has closed, obviously, and the money has dried up. We also began a rental assistance program to help individuals who were not able to pay their rents at a level of $1,500 per applicant. And that program is closed, but we're still assisting Miamians who are having trouble paying their rent. We also now just kicked off, which these two programs that I'm going to mention are open, a mortgage assistance program. This is one that is one of the few that has been implemented by municipalities to help people pay their mortgages. Excuse me, and that's an assistance of up to $6,000 for delinquent payments, as well as what we consider that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that we face is an eviction prevention program. As you know, we have a moratorium that has prevented landlords from evicting folks. In Dade County, we're having an average of about 500 eviction cases being filed every month. So potentially there's going to be 2,000 people out of being evicted, which is not only a housing issue, it's a social issue. And yes, as Chris mentioned, we are looking to tap into hopefully get some of the resources that the county got from the federal government. If they can share some with us, we're going to be proposing an expanded eviction prevention program, perhaps to help some of those from the city of Miami. Obviously, we only deal with the folks here in the city of Miami, as well as we're working with some additional federal funding that we received through working with a nonprofit organization for a homeless prevention and rapid rehousing program. So yeah, we've been very busy with recovery style programs since this all started in March, and we continue to look for resources to continue and expand those programs.
Thank you, Alfredo. And by the way, Alfredo, you were one of the persons that actually I heard out loud say that Little Haiti actually is suffering through climate gentrification. So
Yes.
the fact that you did say that, it again further strengthens my statement earlier that if we are going to follow through with the Resilient Ready strategy and align with 305, Resilient 305, and follow through with things such as resilience hubs in post-hurricanes, which we just skirted to, and more are coming, that having a net office available to animate it for a resilience hub activity is essential. And I have to, the closure of Little Haiti under what they're going through right now, and the different offices like downtown, knowing the circumstances in downtown, it's hard to kind of swallow that and feel that we still have some sort of alignment with, let's say, stated resilience goals that we had kind of been tracking. We are operating under a new administration. I understand that, but Chris, it looks like, I think you obviously have your plate full and you're going to have your hands full, but let's engage Chris and everyone, please, let's try to harmonize some things, because I see us departing from some of our strategic goals.
And I'll thank you for that and address it in this way. Net is not the only way that we can address such things. I will say that we're partnering up all over the city, not just Public Works, the Office of Capital Improvements, Budget Office. We've got, I think we're working better than we have in a long time together on such things. And the resilience hubs are still in what we're looking at with the Miami Forever bond, and not to take up time tonight, but I meant to say it when Justin got up earlier. Some of the responsibilities of the Miami Forever bond are going to be moving over to my office, and we're looking forward to our next Miami Forever bond oversight board in early October. If I recall correctly, it's going to be October 13th. So look ahead to those things, and we will talk about resilience hubs in that context as well. So thank you, Albert. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Sure. All right. I think James Quinlan is next, and before he speaks, let me point out, I think we have we're crossing the 8 o'clock mark right now. So I'm going to ask that whoever's hands are up right now, that we stop the questions at those folks. I can see who they are, and I would ask, even though a lot of people have had a chance to talk, let's get these folks in, unless my compadres in the city have any objections, and we'll also ask that we all try to keep the comments short and answer the questions quickly. So. James Quinlan, I believe you were up next.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm an investor in commercial buildings in the Allapattah neighborhood. It's a challenge. It's a fantastic new part of the community in terms of many people rediscovering that historic neighborhood. We have a fantastic net office there. I want to praise them. I want to thank you for keeping that office open. I think it's wise that you do recognize the need for that office. That office serves us in so many ways, especially the business community and people trying to make a living there. Not just the residents, but the commercial people really do get support. And I have to say, especially because of the leadership of Yadiel Diaz. I'm putting in a word for him right now. I don't know for sure what I might have missed some of them, this meeting at the beginning, but I heard some comments that that position might be in question. And I want to state for the record that he has been extremely helpful, responsive, and supportive of the small businesses that are really trying to revitalize the Allapattah neighborhood. So that's my comment. And I thank you for allowing me to make that statement.
Absolutely. Thank you for making it, and we'll make sure we relay that to everyone that needs to hear it. Who do we have next? Isabella
Palomino.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi, you're up next.
Hi. I just wanted to speak about my concern of the net offices that are being cut. I'm a constituent of Little Haiti, and I know that Little Haiti and Overtown are being cut. And basically, I'm asking about, how I know that they're going to be consolidated into other offices, but many people in Little Haiti lack transportation and are unable to, go to these offices if they're moved away from this district. So how are we going to be able to provide resources for these communities that already have such little resources?
Well, the coverage will remain there, and we will make sure that all areas of the city are still covered by net offices. I hear your concern, and I don't know, Von Carroll, if you want to add anything to that.
Just one thing, ma'am, you mentioned Overtown. Overtown net office will not be closing. So once again, the areas will still have coverage. Nothing, everything will continue to be done for those areas. It's just that the offices will be combined. I do understand what you're saying when it comes to transportation, but the administrators and the office staff are out there at all times. And if you can't make it to the office, we always have it where we can come to you.
Okay, thank you for that. I also have a question about the resilience department that's being consolidated into Public Works. Don't you think that I guess it's more of a comment. Don't you think that kind of negatively reflects on the importance of that we're supposed to, as like South Florida being so vulnerable to climate change? Don't you think that removing this resilience department from standing on its own, don't you think that kind of negatively reflects us like taking action for our future city and to protect it?
So thank you for the question. I can certainly understand how the idea of what used to be a standalone Office of Resilience being, for lack of better terms, absorbed by another department may appear as though maybe the importance has dwindled or we're not going to have the focus. But what I can tell you is that what we gain is first and foremost the human resource power, if you will. Department or a division that had 3 or 4 people in it, a very dedicated and very, very smart leader in Jane, who's no longer with us at the city. Very competent team, but it was a very small team. And now that we're planning on taking them over into Public Works, resilience in Public Works specifically, we have the ability now to spread out some of the effort needed in order to assist the 3 or 4 people that are coming to us, provide more human resource power to continue accelerating the programs that we've already been working on. None of them are going away. And we're going to have more people to be able to assist when necessary. And from that, Alan Dodd, who is currently listed as the Director of Public Works, who is also going to be the Chief Resilience Officer. I don't know if you were on earlier, but he's basically spending we all work more than 40 hours, but we'll leave 40 as the number here. Out of a 40-hour week, he's spending 38 of those hours on specifically his CRO duties as Chief Resilience Officer. And that's right now, as we're in the transition period where he still has Public Works responsibilities, which will ultimately be transferred over to Juvenal Santana, who's our Deputy Director. So we're shifting some of the responsibilities around a little bit to allow Alan to act as a true full-time CRO, then bringing me in and trimming off some of my Public Works Assistant Director duties, so that way I can help out as a Deputy CRO with Alan when Alan needs that. Further on to that, what I would like to just bring up one more time is that Public Works and the Office of Resilience and Sustainability were attached at the hip all along. So realistically, while it was its own separate division or department, we were really working in lockstep with each other all along anyways. So you're not losing the efficiency or effectiveness, if you will. You're not losing the focus on the programs that already exist. and the other programs that we're planning on working on in the future. The greenhouse gas mitigation plan that we're going to be kicking off here in a couple of weeks, and some other initiatives coming soon. So without rambling on too much, we're really keeping the focus that we currently have, and frankly adding more bodies to the ability to help push things forward and actually start getting tangible deliverables out of these initiatives that are really right now in the planning phases, and start implementing these things into actual projects, working with Alfredo and George's team in housing to help with their efforts, and then working with the Capital Improvements Office in order to ensure that we improve design standards and incorporate more green, more green infrastructure as opposed to the gray infrastructure that's always built. So long story short, we're really beefing up the intensity in which that we're focusing on these resilience efforts, in my opinion. And I just want to make it very clear that even though they're coming under our umbrella in resilience and public works, the fact of the matter is Alan's going to be a full-time CRO, and I will be there to help him with as much time as I can possibly give, which right now is about half of my time. So I don't know if that totally puts your concerns at bay, but that's the best I can give you for now.
No, thank you. That I really appreciate that. Thank you for answering my questions, and
You're welcome.
I'm excited to see the work that will be done.
Same here, especially as we start implementing the stuff that we built out on the waterfronts and so forth. When you start really seeing things and seeing the housing initiatives come to fruition, I think it'll be great for everybody.
Yeah, I think right now it's really important to, like many people have mentioned, the Biscayne Bay pollution from construction and water runoffs. That's like a main concern that a lot of people here, we care about our water. We want to see it protected, and we don't want to see, all the fish dying off. And so I hope, even though the resilience department is like kind of being consolidated, there will still be enough effort to, preserve our natural resources.
100%. And just so you know that the water quality and the permitting for these projects that are anywhere near the water bodies or drainage systems that go to the water bodies, that's actually under my purview in resilience and public works. So that focus is not going anywhere. And as people have probably seen, I'm very, very much into enforcing the rules against the violators.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got 5 left. Our next one is Vinod. I may be pronouncing that incorrectly, but that's the next person up to speak.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, close enough. It's Vinod, but
Thank you.
no worries at all. So I'm a partial property owner on for a couple of properties in Allapattah, and partnered with someone there. And I just wanted to speak out on behalf of Uriel Diaz. I'm a physician, and I don't think it's a secret that Allapattah is, in the area that I own in, is quite close to both all three, the VA, UMH, and Jackson. And one of the things that myself and a couple of my physician partners have been looking at is an ambulatory surgical center. And kind of navigating, the waters, with regards to that endeavor, and just general questions and availability. I have to say that Uriel has been a real asset. I do know that Allapattah is up and coming, and from a public draw standpoint, it's only going to go up from here. And so, making sure that patients are comfortable coming to the area and stuff like that. I think that there's some time left to get to that point, but with regards to understanding where the community is going and where the Allapattah itself, where the development's going, he's been an invaluable asset to that regard. So I just wanted to make a comment to that end, and I do hope that all of the comments, I've heard quite a few of them in his favor, do hold some weight before any decisions are made.
Very good. Thank you for the positive words. Always kind. Always good to hear the kind words. Um, and I will make sure that the folks that need to hear what you've said do hear it. So thank you. Von Carroll, do you want to add to that in any way?
I'm okay. Just thank you for the kind words when it comes to the Attapatanet.
Thank you. All right, Brittany Zimes or Zeems, I may be saying that wrong as well.
That was close enough. It's Brittany Zeems, but thank you for the whole name introduction. Good evening, Mr. Rose, Mr. Bennett, and Miss Kinchins-Williams. Thank you so much for hearing the community's concerns and questions. I appreciate your time, and I know it's valuable. My organization that I work for is Citizens for a Better South Florida. We're a local nonprofit organization that promotes environmental stewardship and environmental conservation in the community. And we're located in Little Havana. And I just want to say tonight, I want to make sure that it is known that before the Marlins Park office was open, which Albert Mora has been essential in helping us with the littering and dumping problem that occurs in Little Havana very frequently, that Yariel Diaz was essential in building our relationships and our connections with majority of the other net offices in which we have worked with. And I just want to say that I think in consideration of the 4 positions that are currently filled that are being potentially considered to be eliminated, I don't think that his position should be at all considered, given that not only the other people that have mentioned his value in the community, he is not only essential to nonprofits, but I think that he has bridged the gap with other organizations and introduced us to other businesses that we also work with. And I just want to make sure that it's known that I don't think he should be considered in the decision for the 4 individuals, although I do agree that nobody should be eliminated because the net offices in all the city of Miami are essential in our community. And I hope that somehow there's another way that can be decided that nobody gets eliminated. And then secondly, I just want to mention that my concern with the Resilience and Sustainability Office being merged in Public Works, I think that it's extremely important that, as many other folks have said, climate change and sea level rise is a big issue in our community, and the spotlight is on Miami, and we should really have that in the forefront as we move forward, as expenditures being focused on that area, because it's a concern and it'll impact all of us and future generations ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Looks like we've got 2 more. Rachel Collins, I believe, is our next one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Collins. I'm a lifelong resident of Miami-Dade County. I'm 3rd generation resident here, and I'm a student studying marine biology and ecology at UM. And hearing all of this talk about resiliency, sustainability, and as well as public safety, specifically like the title public safety, and knowing that that's like where 1/3 of all of our money is going. But I'm just talking about just the budget as a whole, looking big picture here, not addressing sea level rise as the forefront of the structure of the budget is economically irresponsible. I'm 22 years old, and I'm planning on living the rest of my life here. So, hopefully I live to be, maybe in my 80s. So what kind of community will I be seeing? It will be a completely uninhabitable place. And every new infrastructure project that is scheduled to continue on through this year will have to be that just 1 more pound of concrete that I'm going to have to move out of the ocean. I'm scared for my future. My house has flooded 3 times. This is a climate emergency. Last year in November, I watched the city of Miami declare a climate emergency. I watched the city of Coral Gables declare a climate emergency. Emergency funding has not come. And the COVID pandemic now has taken spotlight, as if climate change is not the threat multiplier that will create hundreds of more crises like COVID, but in multiples, in multitudes. This fish kill is in multitudes. We're going through the 6th mass extinction, the first one in the history of the world that is human caused. Coal, oil, and natural gas are the cause. And they have they have funded special interest and political corruption for decades and halted progress on climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it. We must act now. We all have children, or we care about the children that are going to be coming after us. This is necessary. So I'm begging you to take action. I've heard what Chris has had to say, and I've heard about Alan Dodd, who's also spending 40 hours a week on this. I want you to know that you guys are not the only people that are trying to fight this, but we all need to unite under a common goal to lower carbon emissions now. Carbon negative, immediately. Carbon neutral is as soon as possible. We have to reach these goals. We need to talk realistically here, because if not, all that you're doing is looking short-term economic gain for long-term catastrophe. That's what mass extinction events do. I'm studying biodiversity, and I really understand that humans and animals are connected. And what we're doing to our atmosphere is will kill us all. So I'm demanding action as a citizen of South Florida. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, we have one last person, Mallory Cowderer. I might be saying that one wrong too. Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the net offices. I am the chairperson of the Little River Business District Board, appointed by Michelle Spence Jones back in the previous decade. We worked to create that area, and the net office has been critical to us. And more recently, we started the Downtown Little Haiti Stakeholders, of which I'm one of the members and president, which are the commercial property owners in downtown Little Haiti. And also, I am on the board of the Little Haiti FC Soccer Club. So I'm pretty familiar with my community and have been for 20 years. I understand that you have to close certain offices for budget concerns and budget needs. And then I spoke to Von Carroll Kitchens earlier today, that you're consolidating to the Legion's Park office. Is that because of the size of the office to shift it over there, or is that because of park needs? That's a question, which you can answer later when I'm finished, if you don't mind. That way we can move quickly. I'm sure you all want to get home. And the other comments I wish to make is the Little River Business District owners are a rather sophisticated group. We own properties and businesses and what have you. So going over to Legion's Park is no big deal for us. In Little Haiti, it's a little bit different. We have a vulnerable population there. We have very much many commercial businesses on the edge. We have a lot of people that are language challenged as well as financially challenged. So having someone that they're familiar with that speaks the language and maintaining that, I think, is critical. We've had a good guy there for a number of years named Gary, who's been very helpful for everybody, no matter what their background is. And he's been wonderful for Little River and Little Haiti, and also for the residents of the area and dealing with our issues that we may happen to have on occasion with our young football players and their families that are in the area. It's soccer. It's FC soccer, so it's not American football, it's soccer. And our small business owners that are challenged in a lot of ways, especially now. I own properties up and down that street and in Little Haiti and Little River for many years. So my comment really is this: it's I think maintaining consistency with someone who speaks the language and knows everyone is critical. And Gary's been great. And the other thing is moving a little bit further away from people is always hard, because they're transportation challenged as well as financially challenged and language challenged. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate all your service. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vaughn, can we answer that one question about size of the office?
Good evening. Again, Mr. Mallory. When we spoke earlier, once again, we're talking about combining net offices. At this point, it has nothing to do with the size of the offices. Once again, it was just the process was done geographically as to where the offices are located at. Right now, once again, nothing is etched in stone. It's, the Upper East Side office was one of the offices that was chosen to remain open. Offices combined, so we'll, wait and see as to how this plays out as far as the offices are concerned that will be combined. But once again, with the office physically closing, you would still have representation for your Little Haiti area. The administrators are tasked with making sure they go out into the neighborhood to take care of the different things that need to be taken care of. So once again, you would not lose any services. Representation will still be there for Little Haiti and for the Little River area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've got two folks that have their hands up. They weren't up earlier. Actually, Sam, I saw yours up and then I saw it go down again. And Riza, we have. So those are our last two folks. Let me ask Riza to talk first, and then Samuel Lattimore thereafter.
Hi, good evening. My name is Riza Fernandez. I am a resident of Little Havana, Shenandoah area and the roads. I'm also chair of Live Healthy Little Havana, which is a community organization that's working to improve the health of our community residents in the neighborhood. And that we have a lot of projects that are going on, which is with public space, with parks. And we also have a big litter campaign going on. And with an announcement made for the net office closure at the Marlins Park, and having one office for the whole area, which probably would be the 12th Avenue one. And you could answer that as well at the end of my comment and my question. We're concerned. We have an enormous amount of issue with illegal dumping, with trash, with lack of services in the area. And we find it that losing our net office at the Marlins Park, and losing that staff, and losing Albert, which is a great director for that office that has been very supportive and very cooperative in reference to illegal dumping and the issues that we're doing and in our community. We feel that, or at least I feel very disappointed, and I hope that you will reconsider to keep that office open. We have a lot of issues in our community, and those office and the one in 12th Avenue with Mr. Wagner is always a great partner to us in our community, and we don't want to see it closed down. Another, I would really hope that the Parks Department has put into this budget, and I don't know where I can find that, for some light in one of our parks, Henderson Park. Our park director has told me that she was going to consider this at the beginning of the year to put it into the budget, and I hope that it's there. We've been asking for over 2 years for a light that is put in Henderson Park towards the turf area for the children that are playing there. There's a soccer league there that was playing as well and has been playing in the dark. And you know, it's not fair. It's not fair for the kids of Little Havana. It's not fair for the kids in the area that play in the dark in that field. These are academies that pay our city for those services, and these are kids that are, you know, are out of the streets and playing sports and developing skills that make them better students and better people of our city. So I hope you consider that. I hope that if there's anything else that I can do to support this, please feel free to let me know. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for all the work.
Sure, and thank you for your comments, and I'll take the opportunity, because I don't often have the chance to deliver good news, and actually I'm not going to. I'm going to let Lara deliver the good news here. So Lara, thank you for joining us. I'll let you talk.
Okay, so Riza and I have spoken many times, so I'm happy to see her calling in, because she's always been a great advocate at many of our community meetings for improvements within parks. And as I committed to her, not only did we submit it for a recommendation for funding, but we did get the vendor to actually go on site so that we could make sure that we got an accurate cost estimation. And I've actually submitted sports lighting for Henderson Park, not only as part of our capital plan, but for consideration of our bond funding. Chris, you could, I don't know if we're funded. That's the only thing. I know what I've done.
So there is in the proposed budget, and mind you, it is still proposed, not yet adopted, $100,000 for sports lighting at Henderson Park. So if the budget is adopted as proposed, then that project is in there and will move forward. So thank you for your advocacy and encouragement to everyone else out there that we do listen and we put them in as we can. So Lara, good job. And yes, I can confirm it. It's actually got a project number on it and everything now.
Thanks to Riza for her advocacy. She brought it to my attention, and I promised we would move it forward. And so now I'm glad we can deliver that great news.
Good. And I'll remind everyone, right before our last speaker, Samuel Lattimore, is up next. I'll remind everyone that we've got 2 budget hearings coming up in the month of September, and after we hear from Mr. Lattimore, I'll put that up on the screen for everyone to see.
Hi, Chris and the gang. And there are a number of things I want to say, but I would be brief. One of the things I want to talk about is the child learning centers. They are extremely important for working parents. Will there be cuts or closures to these centers?
These are the 3 centers that we have in the Department of Human Services.
Yes, sir.
Headed up by Milton Vickers.
Yes, sir.
No, I don't believe we've got any cuts in there. Milton, can you correct me if I'm mistaken? I think everything is moving forward as we had it. What do you have to add to that?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. The Department of Human Services, the proposed budget is carrying forward all of our child learning centers. We have moved over the last couple of years from primarily childcare centers or babysitting services to a full learning curriculum. We intend to continue to advocate for our most vulnerable population. These are children from infancy to 4 years of age. We believe, Mr. Lattimore, that by providing learning services and an atmosphere for real learning, that we could provide some assistance in stemming the tide from school to jails. And I know you have a concern about that. But I appreciate, you're looking after us and asking that question.
Okay. The health screenings like EKG screenings and child COVID testing have been important for families in this community. We hope that these kind of services continue. Are they proposed to be continued, Mr. Vickers?
Sam, we're still fostering partnerships with a number of organizations, including Nicholas Children's Hospital with EKGs. We've done pretty close to a little bit more than 2,000 over the last 2 years. We were unable to move the program forward this summer because of COVID, but we pivoted and developed a partnership with University of Miami Health to provide pediatric screening or testing for COVID-19. So we are and we're also developing with UM Health an immunization program. And in fact, today we decided upon 5 sites that we'll be providing with the University of Miami immunization for children in the coming weeks to months. So, you know, we believe that our health initiatives have been extremely important to the underserved, to the poor, to the unemployed, to the underemployed, to the working parent. And we'll continue to move that. And I want to say this, all of our health services that we provided to residents of the city, free of charge, by the way, have cost the city of Miami absolutely nothing. We have developed those partnerships with people like Simply Health, who've been outstanding. We provided 2,000 lunches during the first couple of months of the COVID crisis to 2,000 children in the city of Miami at no cost to the city. So we're continuously looking at developing partnerships where we can continue providing a service to the underserved. That's our advocacy, and we'll continue to do that. Chris has been very helpful in terms of that. Naturally, like every other department director, we battle and we advocate for what we believe, what we need. But Chris's responsibility is to say no. Okay.
Well, I see homelessness. I travel a lot at night. People know me as the graffiti hunter. And I see a number of homeless people on the streets now. And I fear that there may be more that result from that. This is a very complex issue, and we need to ensure funding for homeless. You and Chris, is there any cuts projected, or what is the status of our homeless budgeting process at expecting that the number of homelessness will increase?
Chris, I can take that if I can. The vast majority of our funding for the homeless comes from the Homeless Trust in 3 or 4 different grants that we receive. I would also think, yes, our homeless population may very well increase based upon our COVID-19 pandemic situation. But last year, we had some 4,000 placements, shelter placements of homeless individuals in partnership with the Homeless Trust during the COVID pandemic. We have utilized hotel space. All of our shelters have been full and closed under quarantine. So the Homeless Trust has gone to hotels, and we have provided the boots on the ground assistance to move our homeless population there. The fire department has been extremely helpful in terms of mobile testing. But again, I know Mr. Duran has been very active in terms of rapid rehousing. Some of that will include individuals who could possibly be homeless due to being unable to afford rents. Once the eviction prohibition has been lifted, so a number of those individuals will be impacted. But our general fund budget, as relates to our homeless population, is still intact. That would be our beds at Camilla's House, which also provide addiction services for a portion of our population, as well as Lotus House, which is for women with children. They also provide beds for the City of Miami and the City of Miami Police Department in domestic violence cases. So we're pretty good in that area. Certainly, I'd love to have more, but we have other areas around the city that has priorities too. So we have to, work with what we have. And I think to this point, I think we've done a relatively good job with that. Certainly, there's areas I'd like to improve upon, but we always find a way.
Okay. And then my last comment, and thank you. You notice, Chris, I let the expert speak rather than me hogging up the thing. I have two major issues. I asked last night, what is the criteria for the decision of what centers to keep open or close? And I would like for the deputy or the director of the department, Mr. Casimore, is he still in? For him to ask that question, what was the what are the criteria from which was for the decision to keep open or close made in terms of the centers? What were those criteria? Just a couple, just 3 or 4, please.
Good evening, Mr. Lattimore. Good to hear from you, sir. So the criteria that, first off, let me start that we didn't want to cut any services in this budget. That's not what we like to do. In reality, when faced with reductions in revenue, the things that you kind of think about are what are things that we have to do, and then what are those things that we like to do. I know that net offices are a very, very important part of the community. I remember back in the day when I was in the county, the Team Metro concept, which also started around the same time the net office. In fact, I think the county copied the city's net concept in that was a wonderful thing. And when I was a tax collector, those Team Metro offices were a real benefit to my operation. And it was a significant reduction in service when we cut those offices at the county. So making those same reductions at the city, it's a very painful thing to do. With that said, though, having to make some adjustments and some cuts, what we looked at was what are the offices that were, number one, geographically kind of close to each other, and how we could take the services of the offices that would remain open and be able to enhance those to cover the areas that we would close. So the idea behind it was just where can we move additional people into offices that would not affect the geographical layout of the remaining net offices that we have. So it's what could we use to cover what neighborhoods would be left. It's not a perfect science. It was, just all net offices are important, as you can tell from hearing from individuals from Allapattah and Coconut Grove and Little Havana, and certainly in the Little Haiti area. Obviously, everybody likes their net offices and wants their net offices. So any net office that we reduce, we know that we would have a significant impact, but know that the plan is to, even though we would be shuttering some locations, we would enhance the remaining locations so that we can not only continue to serve the areas that we would close the net offices in, but enhance and improve the services that we're giving out to all of our net offices.
Okay, one last thing, Mr. Chris. That's a good reason, because now I'm looking at geography and services. But just let me make a comment about that. I went over to the Upper East Side place today on Biscayne Boulevard, and it is not a good site to move all of those folk to. Number one, it's at the far east side of the area, and we would best be served by reconsidering the Little Haiti office as a major site, because that Upper East Side place does not serve the as was stated earlier, the type of people that can get there. Number one, the Little Haiti office, which is scheduled to be closed, is in my opinion, much better than the Upper East Side site in terms of accessibility. Many of the people who reside in the model cities, Little Haiti area, have several physical issues walk-ins that many of the other people experience. I've been to some of them, and I love after hearing from 2 nights about the great work that they are doing in Allapattah, and I met that young man, and he is sharp. We've talked about a number of things, crime and et cetera. But by physically walking the site and physically looking at our population, the Upper East Side does not benefit us in terms of its proximity to the people who need the net services. And lastly, I would just like to highlight that we have a golden guy too, and that's Mike Rivers. He does the same as the guy who from Allapattah, but Mike has a much more difficult place because of the places that he has to do, and because of this extended preoccupation with new residents coming in, with condemned housing. Over 700 houses, when we ask for the records, are considered unsafe. And Mike has helped us do that. So if you all could really go back to the drawing board and look at that notion of moving so far north across Biscayne Boulevard, you're creating a travel situation for our people. The walk-ins are not going to be there. And there's no way that a group, and I've tried it, go out to facilities at the multi-housing units, et cetera, that we visit and Mike's office visit. So I would like for you to reconsider that, union staff to reconsider that walk-in. Look at the population. Look at the walk-in ability. Look at the where it is in relationship to the bulk of what net serves and who net serves. And I would like to see if there's going to be a movement that the Upper East Side be taken off of the table for the reasons that I think I experienced today, and for the reasons that many of the people feel also. Thank you so very much, Chris. This has been a great time. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all. And hello, Laura. It's good seeing you again. Laura is one of the great directors in the department, so it's good to see all of you guys. Thank you very much, Ms. Von Kitchen. I appreciate your support over the years. And certainly, Chris, we got to get back to the yellow stickums. I miss them.
We'll do that. All right. Well, Sam, I appreciate your comments and everyone's comments. I'm going to bring the meeting to a close just by putting this information up on the screen. We've got 2 official budget meetings coming up in the month of September. This is where the budget will actually be presented and voted on. They are September 10th and September 24th and they will be virtual, and they are both at 5:05 p.m. So I'm going to invite everyone to join us at those 2 meetings. I'm also going to point out that all of the budget detail is online at mymigov.com/budget. You can see the 500 pages of the operating budget and the 300 pages of capital, and you can even look at some of the monthly reports that we put out there if you're having trouble sleeping. That's a good route to go. And then finally, if you have any other questions, follow-up comments, anything you want, please send them to this email address at the bottom, which is ibudget@mymigov.com. And I thank you all. It has really been a pleasure hearing from everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. I want to put one other thank you to all the directors and assistant directors that helped answer the questions. And finally, Manny Otero of the Department of Innovation and Technology. Thank you for hosting and getting all this stuff done for all of us and making it possible. So with that, I'll sign off. Thank you all. Have a good night.